My name is Emily Levy, and I'm 25 years old, and I'm originally from Rhode Island, but currently I live in New York City. I went undiagnosed with chronic neurological Lyme disease and co-infections for about 7 years. I first got sick when I was 12, and I actually didn't finish the 7th grade. At the time, I was living in New Jersey. I had moved there from Boston, and before that I lived in Rhode Island. So I've kind of always been all over the place. So I had my parents were told was I was the worst case of mono that the doctors had ever seen. I had lost 20 pounds in a month. I couldn't keep any food down. I was so tired, I was sleeping 18 to 20 hours a day. Even taking a shower hurt. I was very light and sound sensitive. So at that point, my family didn't love living in New Jersey, so we moved back to our hometown in Rhode Island to be closer to family, and I think just to have a happier childhood for me. So then I started a new middle school, and I seemed to have gotten better, but I was still really tired all the time. And throughout that year-long process, we were trying to figure out and go to the best doctors possible. And at one point, the doctor told my mom that it could even be leukemia because my white blood cell count was so low. Fast forward, I ended up going to high school. I played 3 sports, did leadership programs for women, and had a pretty normal childhood. But when I started to really have neurological challenges was my end of my junior year and my senior year. I had had these out-of-body experiences, extreme joint pain, to the point where I couldn't really play sports anymore. And my mom and I just kept trying to get help for myself. Doctors said everything from I was a moody teenage girl who needed antidepressants to, it was just growing pains, to I was tired all the time because school started early and I'm a type A personality and was probably doing too much. So then I go to college. I went to Babson, which is an entrepreneurial university, and I had a scholarship for women's entrepreneurial leadership. My freshman year, we didn't know what was wrong with me. At that point, I became very clumsy. I went from getting straight A's to barely passing my classes, sleeping through my classes, and eventually my driver's license was taken away because I got into 3 accidents in a month. Because I'd tell my foot, put your brake now, and then the signal was just not going. My younger brother John, he's 10 years younger than me, he had classic Lyme symptoms, bullseye rash, found a tick on him. My mom finally got him to one of the best Lyme literate doctors, and she started to learn all about Lyme disease. And so then she kind of put the dots together and said, I think this is what Emily has. But my symptoms were very different from John's. Mine were very pain-driven and neurological at that point, and John had more of the classic Lyme disease symptoms. So I finally found a Lyme literate nurse practitioner by the age of 19. I finally had an accurate diagnosis of neurological Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses. And then I had to have my first PICC line shortly after my 20th birthday. So this is my sophomore year. My freshman year, we could really hide that I wasn't feeling well a lot. But once I had a physical medical device, people treated me different because they could now see I was sick. I was doing 3 to 5 IV infusions per day, often in my classes or, club meetings. Just doing dressing changes, having a medical fridge, how do you shower with a PICC line in a dorm room. Those are all the challenges I went through. And I feel like, I had this one version of my life, and then once people could tell I was sick, it's really been the next chapter of my life. And I had my first PICC for 6 months for IV antibiotics, and then I seemed to be doing better. All my friends were studying abroad, so I was like, take this out of me. I found a program where I could do an internship in Israel for 3 months, and I was like, I'm going, and I don't care what anyone says, even though my doctor said it's probably not the best idea for me. So I took 1 suitcase of my meds and 1 suitcase of my clothes, and went off to Israel by myself. Then I did pretty well my junior year, but I started to relapse my senior year and had to get another PICC place shortly after I graduated. from college. I was gonna go work in New York City in media, but even though I signed the job contract, I had to go back and tell them due to my health I couldn't go, which was a real struggle for me. When I was in college, I started my company Mighty Well, and our mission is to turn sickness into strength for patients, creating adaptive apparel and accessories, and creating digital content for patients. So I already had this entrepreneurial spirit. I knew I couldn't work a traditional 9-to-5, so I told my parents I wasn't going to my job and that I was going to be an entrepreneur. And by that point, I had won 17 pitch competitions, over $250,000 in seed funding for our company, and said, I'm doing this. So I told myself I'd give it 2 years, and now we're going on 3 years. Since then, I've been doing a lot better, but a lot of challenges along the way. I finally found a Lyme literate neurologist, and I started IVIG, which was really tough for me, especially the first year and a half. For those of you who don't know what it is, IVIG is IV gamma globulin. They take the plasma from healthy patients and filter it, clean it, and then each bottle has about 1,000 blood donors. So I started doing those infusions. At that point, I had to pick again for 18 months for IV antibiotics, IVIG, completely lost access in my arms from being stuck all the time. And eventually now I have a port. So thankfully I'm off IV antibiotics. Through the treatment, I'm back at about 90% of my nerve function from 40%. Still running my company, traveling all over the world, doing public speaking and growing our company. And I just want to show people that just because you're sick doesn't mean you have to live a sick life. Being sick and having a diagnosis or a medical device is a piece of your life for sure, and a large part. But you can still work in, maybe it's just at a modified job, or it's from home in a lap. I did so much of growing Mighty Well from a laptop in my bed, advocating for other people, and it's easier than ever to start a company. So I want to be a role model for other patients and other female entrepreneurs, to show them that you can make an impact, even if it's from your phone or a laptop in your bed. So that's my story.